All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Savvy Women of Social Media. I am your host, Michelle Arbori, and I'm the owner of Savvy Social Media, where I help entrepreneurs and small businesses get a presence on social media, the presence that they deserve. And today, for our interview series, we are talking to Julia May Hunt, photographer. So I'm going to let her introduce herself and then we will start the interview. Go ahead, Julia. Welcome.
Welcome. Hello, everybody. So I am a social media and branding photographer, which is a new genre of photography. And, it's one of those things where I stumbled across a course for it almost, my goodness, it's been over a year and a half
Mhm.
now. The time is flying so fast. Um, which was perfect timing because I had just quit my full-time job to start my photography business. Um, and I was actually having a very hard time niching down to what I wanted to do. I love doing infants. I love doing senior portraits. I love doing business portraits of business people. Um, and so, since I get to tell stories, people's stories in their social media, I get to do all that types of photography, plus everything in between to do this. So um, here I am. My background, oh my gosh, my background hops all over the place because as a young woman, I did a lot of exploring, trying to figure out what I wanted to do when I grew up. Um, so I have degrees in agriculture education. I do have a photography degree, art degree, um, and I was a restaurant manager for 14 years because I've always loved the restaurant industry as well. Um, so, it's kind of one of those things where I had no idea what direction all of this was going to take me, and so then when I found brand photography, it just clicked. Like all my experiences, I draw on all those experiences and it just is amazing how I can flow with this.
That's
Um,
cool. How
yeah,
come
yeah.
photography? What made you fall in love with it that's what you wanted to do as a profession?
Well, part of it is storytelling, but mostly all my life, there'll be those little moments where the lighting is just perfect and something or someone just speaks to me. It's just a beautiful moment, and I just want to capture that and be able to share it.
Mm.
Um, and there's just so even when I was doing the restaurant management and not doing a lot of photography on the side, I would still have that happen even on a busy frantic shift. We've got people waiting to get in, and it's just crazy. Sometimes there'd just be this really beautiful little moment that I would see, or a moment between a family or something, and I would just think, oh, I wish I could just wink my eye and capture a photo of that moment. So um, that it just always keeps drawing me back.
Oh, that's so cool. So, what does a social media photographer do? Since I'm in social media, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know that really there were photographers that did that. So, what does a social media photographer do?
So um, basically, I help tell a story, and I don't know if I mentioned in there that one of the other things I used to be is a newspaper photographer,
Hmm.
um, and so um, what I do is help people visually tell their stories and have visual representations of them and their products or their, you know, whatever they want to be sharing for their content, um, that it's of them and it's about their story. Um, and I help people build libraries of images so that as you plan your social media and you've got all those planned posts that you want to do, you've got photos that are all ready to go. And so you can pick those and put those in. Sometimes your written content um, inspires photos that we take. Sometimes the photos we take inspire content, um, written content. And so it goes kind of back and forth that way. And it just really helps have a cohesive look. That's another thing that we do is make sure that we're incorporating color branding colors and um, have a really more cohesive, polished look, even if the photos maybe are a little bit more casual than what, say, maybe a portrait photographer would do of you. And I still do some of those photos because you still need those polished lead photos for your, your main picture on your Facebook page or your profile or the lead of your website. But I also do the photos that are kind of more of the everyday. And the other thing that I can really help with is be able to help you visually connect with your clients in an instant. Because as we all know, we're all on our phones just scrolling away, and you've got to have something that grabs people's attention long enough to stay. So having the good photography is part of that.
That's cool. So I used to dabble with very basic photography. I love taking pictures of nature. I actually have on my dining room wall pictures of all flowers I've taken. But for somebody who's never done it before, what are some basic tips, whether if they have a camera or now cell phones have really great cameras? What are some basic tips that you have for amateurs, people?
Well, yes, the cell phones are amazing. I mean, I have mine that I carry around and do most of my snapshots with that. It's been really freeing for me because I didn't used to do snapshots because everything had to have perfect lighting. Um, so one of the biggest things that I tell people is to start with learn how to use your camera on your phone. Um, so whether you're using your phone or whether you did invest in a camera, make sure you're finding those YouTube videos. Those are the best resources to help you learn how to use your device. Because even myself as a photographer, I had to do that too, because it's a different camera. A lot of times people think that we know how to use all cameras. Even my professional cameras, I have it set on manual, and I don't know how to use most of the other features that are on the camera. So that's my number one thing, just so that you know how to use your phone. And let's see. Some of the basic things are make sure you're clean the lens. I mean, especially on the cell phone, those things are in our pockets. They're rummaging around the bottom of our purses. They're getting laid down everywhere. Your kids are taking the phone and playing with it. This actually happens to me all the time. I snap a picture and then I look at it later and I'm like, ew, I must have had something all over that lens. So if you're taking pictures that especially if you know you're going to use them for social media, just take a second with a nice cloth, and it doesn't really even have to be anything that special, just a tissue to clean it off with. And then watching for good light. This is one of the things that most of us as professionals are an expert in. So,
What was that you cut out? What was the second one?
Making sure that you're watching for good light.
Ah.
So light to use is indirect shade light. So like that light that you've got there with your window is really nice light. Your room just looks really great. So most professional photographers, when we're doing a photo shoot, we're going to look for someplace in the shade. If we're doing something outside, our favorite days usually are the days where it's completely overcast but not raining. And that's because you don't have really harsh light and shadows on you. So that's one of my biggest suggestions as far as what is good light. You can start breaking the rules and use harsh light in different situations, but we won't get into that. That's something that you can play around with once you get good at the basic lighting. And then also learn just a little bit about composition. And one hint I have about that is there are grid lines on your phone. Now, basic composition for all art is called the rule of thirds. So write that down. That's something that you can look up and read about. And our phones actually have a grid that divides up our screen into 9 squares. So
I never knew that.
I actually didn't either. It's right there, but I never noticed it before. So I actually just learned this a couple months ago that those grids are there for you to learn where you should put your subjects for good composition. Because you want your subject, actually, if I were doing good composition, I would be here. And then maybe I'd have my logo here because your first subject goes in this third of the screen. And then maybe I'd have my logo in this part of the screen.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, just smacking stuff right into the center always works too, especially
Now,
for
is
just
that for iPhones and Androids, or do they both
um
have that?
I'm iPhone. I'm pretty sure that the Androids do too.
Okay, I'll have to look into that because I haven't
I
had.
will too. Here I am giving advice, and I'm not sure about that. But definitely the iPhones do.
Hmm.
Um, but even if you don't have the grid, and especially if you're using a camera or you have a phone that doesn't have that, you can just kind of start picturing where the lines would be in your composition. And again, that's a general rule for good composition. There's always plenty of ways to break that rule. One of my favorite compositions that doesn't really follow that is a square image
Mm-hmm.
that has something just smack dab right in the middle. That's one of my favorite compositions. Um, and then some of the other things, of course, you need to tell some sort of a story um, in your photo, which it does, usually that happens. But if you could start thinking about some different elements that tell a story um, in your photo, then that just helps communicate a lot better. Um, let's see here, looking at my notes a little bit. Um, and one thing that's fun to do, and it's something that a lot of times as professionals we quit doing. And so sometimes we'll actually even take a course on this again just so that we can start having a fresh perspective on our work, is shoot from different angles. So don't just stop and take one picture, but try some different creative angles. Most of them may not work, but you might end up finding something that's really different. And as we all know, we need to find ways to stand out online too. So you might find something that looks a little bit different than what you usually see. Um, so then along with that is to make sure that you shoot several photos. You can always delete them after you're done, but I know there have been several times that I've photographed something with my phone. And actually, even with my professional camera, the reason a lot of professionals shoot a lot of pictures is because you can still end up with something not being in focus, or maybe you thought you clicked it at the right time, and someone actually looks like this. Um, but just shooting a lot of different pictures really helps with making sure that you've got the picture. Let's see here. Oh, and then this is something else that I learned the hard way. As a pro, if I'm using a lens that can zoom in and out, and I can, make something come in closer to me or farther away, or if I don't like that, I'll just use a different lens. On your phone, we can slide the screen and zoom things in and take our picture. Well, it turns out that it's actually just, long story short, it's going to turn out blurry. It's
I
going to look
always zoom in
really
my pictures.
well. Sometimes it doesn't seem to be that bad, but other times it is. It looks just really pixelated,
Oh, yes.
especially so maybe for if you're just do small pictures of social media, it might not be that bad. But if you tried to blow it up even on a laptop, it just will look low quality.
Okay.
It's really hard because sometimes where I'm standing, I need to zoom it in, whereas usually the advice is to take your phone and just get closer, but that may not quite be the look. So what you can do, and seems to be a little bit better, is take the picture and then crop it after you've taken the picture, because for some reason that just seems like that the quality is a little bit better than if you zoom it in and take the picture like that. let's see. And I should say that one area that I've been skimping out a little in my business is updating my phone. So I am actually giving you this advice from an iPhone 6S. So
What
I
is
would
the recent one? I don't even know.
11
Oh,
and
okay.
12 is supposed to be getting announced. I don't know how COVID's gonna um, change that. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
I
I will
have a
tell you,
Samsung, so
well, I'll tell you, I was at a wedding. I was shooting a wedding in last November, and the photographer that was assisting me had just gotten an iPhone 11. And it was such good quality on the photos that we were actually able to test what we wanted the pictures to look like and then set up my camera, set up all the professional lighting to try to get basically the same look
oh, how
that
fun.
we got with the phone. Now, we were both looking at each other like, wow, you just went click with your phone and got pretty close to what we wanted. Um, and then we had to spend a good 15 minutes testing light and getting the lights all positioned around to do it with the professional camera. Um, so the quality is really, really amazing on
Yeah,
those
it's
new
gotten
phones.
a
So
lot
I really want a new one really bad.
better. We'll start teaching. So
Yes.
when it comes to editing pictures,
Mm-hmm.
what are some good either apps on your phone or programs on a computer if you have an either a Apple computer or I have a PC, but what are
Mm-hmm.
some good apps since we are always on our phone? What are some good programs and apps to use for editing?
Well, there is a great version of Lightroom that does have a great app, cell phone app, to help with lighting, or I'm sorry, editing. Um, it's not, um, it's actually pretty user friendly. I actually like the editing that's right on my phone. Some of the presets work very nicely, and if you get in, it's another thing to be looking up and learning how to use because there's actually some surprising amount of adjustments that you can make just right on your phone editing.
Hmm.
Um, and then I just started learning how to use Canva myself.
Love Canva.
Yes, I can do a lot of things with Photoshop and design things myself. And finally, a photographer friend of mine said, it just takes a lot of work to do it in Photoshop, and you would save yourself an awful lot of time if you just started using Canva. So I was playing around with the editing that Canva had, and that was pretty good too.
Hmm. I would have never thought for editing photos, though. That's cool to know.
Yeah,
I'll have to,
they're pretty basic, but they're also pretty easy and really, for what you usually need for it, it worked pretty nice.
cool. So, how do you make your photos stand out?
Well, for me, and this is going to be varying for you as you develop your brand. Um, I like to use lots of bright, happy colors because I'm just really fun and joyful. And
Me too.
um, yes, and so I like being able to express that. And so then the next part of it that I found, and it's the biggest tip I can give you, is just play around just a little bit with what you think might work. If you don't get a lot of engagement on something, maybe look for some different ideas. One thing for me that I'm not sure exactly how I feel about this. First thing is I found out that people like pictures of me, which is weird. I'm like, I'm taking professional pictures of these beautiful people, but you give me more reaction on the pictures of me. Um, and
Well,
then,
people like to see the human being behind the brand when it comes
yeah,
to social media, and they want to get to know you. So I can see that. They want to get to know more of Julia.
yeah, and it's been really interesting. So on my social media, pictures of me do really well. Then maybe I won't get that much interaction on somebody else's picture that I post, but then they post it and they get, 200 or 300 likes, and comments are, going crazy, and they have shares, and, people love it. So it's just a really interesting phenomenon. And you really have to, it's one of those things where you have to do some personal work, um, and learn how to embrace who you are, and then let that speak in your content and your photography. And it's almost like you have to let your erase your imperfections, and those are the things that are actually perfect for creating content that stands out. So what works for one person may not work for another person. But to get back around to the question you actually just asked me, just have fun with it, be yourself, and play around. So not everybody has to be jumping off a cliff or breastfeeding their baby, or any of those extreme things that do get a lot of attention from people.
So now that we can't really get out and be around people, maybe for a photographer it's different because you don't have to stand so close to people. But if somebody wants to do pictures right now, how do you
Mm-hmm.
feel about selfies?
Well, I've never minded selfies that much. Um, but the only thing I don't like is, so we all have that spot that's a good selfie. Mine's like this.
Yes, with the mouth. What is it with the mouth open?
Well, it makes you look really happy, like, oh my gosh, I'm having so much fun. But this also makes you look really thin, right?
Oh, I need
And
that then. Yes, get rid of that double chin.
yeah, it gets that double chin gone,
Oh,
and you look really fun. So what drives me crazy, and I think it drives people's followers crazy, but I have seen people have a decent amount of followers and interaction with their selfies, is just pictures over and over again, just different expressions from the same pose.
uh,
Um, which I can understand, because like my selfie doesn't really work on this side. It only works good like right there, like that.
so funny.
So to give some variety, then get yourself a tripod, and you can go on Amazon, and there's all different kinds of stuff in there you can find that will work. I don't think that there's, as long as you read the reviews and kind of give yourself an idea of what people are thinking, um, you can find something that'll work for you. Whether you find one that's got a ring light on it, which is what I'm using to light me right now, and then it's got a cell phone holder, and then there is a trigger for my phone, which I've never gotten out and used. Um, but that will help give you a little bit of variety to your selfies
Well, that
versus
answered
just the
my
one
next
photo.
question. What are some good things people should invest in? If they are taking their own photos right now, if somebody
Mm-hmm.
wants to take their own photos for social media, when it comes to like spacing, or because I'm more of the feminine feel, and I see a lot of those feminine images where the laptop is here and a phone is here. When it comes to space, what's too much, I guess?
Hmm. Like spacing on how often you post.
No, spacing in an image. So if you want to put a bunch of props together,
Oh, I see.
that's what I meant. And what's too much props?
Well, I think that's again something that you just have to play around with. Um, because sometimes if you don't put enough in and you have this big blank space, that's a perfect spot to put in um, your what you're promoting, and put some text in there, or even another photo in that spot. So um, I've seen people do all different sorts of things where there's a lot of stuff in the picture. Um, so sometimes when I'm putting something together like that, I will actually, it's kind of a process that I go through where I put in everything that I want to put in the picture. I take a picture of it and then look at it and see how I like things. then I will move things around, or I might take something out if I feel like I've got too much in the photo. Um, but I'd say a good rule of thumb, if you're wanting to put some text on, overlay text on the picture, the fewer amount of things in the picture, the better, or at least leave yourself a little bit of space. So like if we had this pretty board that we put like a cell phone and earbuds and a pen and, you know, maybe some, I don't know, a few things like that, just to make sure you leave yourself a little bit of the board space to be able to put some text there.
Okay.
But then again, every time I say something like that, I'll find an example where someone totally broke that rule and made it work. So, you know, just feel free to play around and have some fun with things and don't feel nervous, because um, I have worked with something like that before, and it might take hours one day and I never get anything to look right, and then come back to the next day and all of a sudden I can get it to click and
See, that
come
leads
together.
to my next question. What about people who are perfectionists like me? How do we stop taking all these pictures and then decide on the right one? How do we know it's the right one? How do we not be so perfect?
You don't. I mean, just jump in there and do it. And that's part of how you find out. So let's say you put something and you find out and it's a total flop, like you don't get any likes, no one notices it, it's just disappears from the feed except for where you posted it. Well, you learned something. Okay, that didn't work. So then that's more information for the next time that you do put something together. um, that's probably been the hardest thing for me as an entrepreneur in general.
Mm.
But putting yourself out there and just doing it, you know, done is better than perfect, and it's always going to be momentum forward, even if it's a complete and utter failure.
See, we may not think it's perfect, but somebody else may too.
Oh my gosh, yes. Like I've got yesterday I posted this picture and I had this weird look on my face. I just like I'm going, and I was really nervous about posting it because I thought I looked really goofy. My double chin was totally like, yeah, and I felt really self-conscious about it. But I got a few compliments on the post, and then I actually got several messages from people that they just really enjoyed that picture.
I think with everything that we're going through right now in the world, we just want to see fun and weird and happy
Uh-huh.
different things.
And it was a weird post because I was posting something that sounded like I was talking about the storm and getting through the storm that we had on Monday. But I wrote that post last week.
Oh, how funny.
So it was really weird. Like I'm talking about, do you ever feel like it's going to suddenly, the sky's going to turn black
Yeah.
and rain suddenly and disasters around the corner? And that's exactly what happened on Monday. And I
Oh,
wrote that post probably on Tuesday the week before.
that's so funny. Hey, it was perfect, right?
Right.
So I heard you mention earlier an image library. What is an image library?
Well, it's basically a folder that you keep with pictures in it, that you plan to use for social media, whether it's professional or whether it's just a folder that you keep for yourself. Um, and it's always a resource for you that you can draw pictures from. Um, I had a photo of, well, it was actually a photo of me. Um, and I had my cell phone up. Actually, I had this blouse on. I just realized I wore the blouse that I had for
That's just your
my
cover.
picture.
Oh, how funny.
Yeah. So I have my cell phone like this, and I'm like looking at it. And I'm about to press my finger, and I'm going like this. And I'm like, people are going to end up liking that picture of me. And I saved it and saved it and saved it. And I didn't know what I was going to use it for. And then in one of a class I took, they wanted us to write a 1 minute elevator speech. Um, and that photo went perfectly with that elevator speech. And so I grabbed it, put it with that elevator speech, and we were supposed to write that quickly so that we didn't spend too much time overthinking it. and then put it out there. So I had that picture, I had the 1 minute speech that I put together, and I did that in like, it's because I already had the photo ready to go. So that's just an example of having images ready to go. It's one of those things that that's what I do for clients as part of my social media photography packages, but it's also something that you can do for yourself. And it's also really nice because if you are out enjoying yourself in the with your family, or maybe just on a walk in the evening and you snap a picture, you don't have to stop and post it. You can just go put it in your little and save it for later. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, it does.
I have a terrible time getting off.
No, you're fine. No, I'm learning a lot because I do like to take pictures. So I'm always taking pictures on my phone. So I even took some notes.
Yeah.
So when it comes, they always say pictures of babies and animals are always good. What have you found, especially for a business, if somebody is posting for social media, what are some of the best pictures that they can keep in the back of their mind to take?
Well, for businesses, there's a lot of businesses, as you know, that have quite a bit of restriction on them as far as what they can share. But I know that some of those restrictions are getting loosened up a little bit right now because of everything we've been through with COVID and people trying to find ways to get to know each other without getting together in person. And so I have found that, yes, if you have a baby, sharing those pictures of the babies. I have a cat who is a beautiful Persian.
I have a cat too over there.
Yeah, he doesn't always cooperate with me. So I definitely, when I post him, I'm not usually doing professional pictures. It's cell phone photos when I do post with him.
Here
Oh,
Here she is. This is one of my babies. This is Annabelle.
hi, Annabelle.
She is 13, I think, and then Mama, the black one, she's 14.
You're beautiful.
I took lots of pictures of her, as you know. She's easier to get pictures of than
Yes.
Mama.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you gotta go now.
So they may not cooperate. But the reason that people like that is because it's something that they can relate to. And it's something that kind of that's another thing that actually catches people's attention. So that, if you've got a cat video, they're going to stop and watch that cat video. And then they're going to decide they like you, and they're going to wonder what you do and start reading your stuff. And the next thing you know, they're leading into being a client. Sometimes people don't feel comfortable with including their family in their marketing. I would be fine with it.
I am.
But my husband does not want to be photographed constantly and be all over my social media and having us share things that he would perceive as being personal as part of my business. Now, if I want to say, Craig and I, I'm leaving today and Craig and I are going to go barbecue, I can say stuff like that, but I'm respectful of him because he does not want to. He barely looks at Facebook. And he doesn't really want to be. He lets me practice on him sometimes. But even
my husband doesn't care. He could care less, my husband. So he's easy there.
But, that's all just things that people can relate to you for. And just, especially if you're really informationally dry, posting pictures of babies and kittens and puppies just makes you more human, and you can relate. People can relate to you better and make you more of a human.
So now we're going to talk about this in your next interview sometime in September, but how did COVID affect you in your business?
Well, it was an interesting time. So like I said, I just I think I told you that before, but so I'm going to repeat just a little bit what we talked about. Um, so I quit my full-time job in 2018 to start my business full-time. So we're coming up right on about the 2-year mark for me. Um, and so last winter, I had been networking like mad and just meeting a lot of great people and connections. And I had sold, all kinds of photo shoots in January and February, and was actually having a really busy time. And then COVID hit and just screeching halt. So like everybody else, I just kind of went, okay, well, I guess we'll see what happens. And so I just used the time to learn um, and connect online. I really enjoyed all the online connections.
That's how we met.
Yep. And free classes. Oh my word, the free classes. Like, oh, I still kind of cringe at the stuff I missed, but I'm really thankful for everything I was able to participate in. Um, but a friend of mine asked me if I wanted to start doing porch portraits. And I decided that sounded kind of fun. So I did one small round for free. And then I ended up partnering with someone who saw my pictures to raise money for a charity. So we ended up raising like $700, $30 at a time
Wow.
for a local charity. And, I just kept myself busy. I did a few business porch portraits. So I called those curbside portraits for businesses that wanted to, especially as people were starting to go back into their offices. Maybe they're still wearing their masks or just wanting to let people know that, hey, we're still here and I'm here to help you with your needs. So, I just kept myself busy. And the best part about that is then once things loosened up a little bit and we started feeling a little bit more comfortable about at least being in the same space, even if it's social distance with masks and gloves and sanitizer spray, um, I actually picked up and got busy again.
That's good. See,
So,
I think with the more that I'm talking to people, and again, we're going to do this whole series in September, and now I'm booking into October, which I didn't think would take off like this, but we're going to be talking about how, it's really affected people. And the more that I talk to people, it's really been a really good thing for their businesses.
mm-hmm.
For the ones that I've talked to, I'm sure we're going to come across some, women next month that didn't have such good things, but it's really been a good thing. And even for me, it really made me focus on my business more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still signing clients, which is good. They're finding me on the internet. So, how are people finding you now that you're not out there networking? Is it through your social media? Is it through the images you're sharing on there? How are people finding you and connecting with you now?
It's been a combination of people that I connected with in person before. Um, and then, yes, people are following me on social media. And then also online networking. And they all start kind of combining together. Um, and basically kind of, it's almost like it just creates this one big story. And I know that they say that, the more that you can be seen in different places, then um, the more, what is that rule? It's coming to the top of my head. The more that you can be seen. Um,
I don't know.
it's really cool and clever, and I'll think of it after we're done with this, you guys.
I don't know.
but but it really does show when people start being able to recognize you, they start learning your name, they start becoming a part of your community. Des Moines is a small city, but we're still 500,000 people in the Des Moines metro area. Um, so you still have to I still have to put some effort into getting to know my community, and it's working.
That's good. I'm so happy. So what is one big takeaway people can walk away with right now when it comes
Just
to photography and social media?
I would say just have fun. Even if you have a lot of restrictive rules, um, find ways to get around and just have some fun and play with it. And if you absolutely hate taking pictures, then maybe find someone in your office or find someone around you that likes it, because that comes through in your pictures and your message.
Yeah, and I think having fun is so important because with social media, it's about gaining that know, like, and trust. And like I said, showing that there's a human being behind your brand.
Mm-hmm.
So I think having fun is, and for me, I'm not shy about showing my son on Instagram or Facebook or anything like that. So he makes it easy to take pictures. But when it comes to, let's say for myself, I have a service, whereas you have a product, you have your pictures. I have a service.
Mm-hmm.
For the people that have that, how do we showcase that in photos?
Well, you you basically sell a lifestyle that it's kind of like selling a lifestyle of what you get if you buy the service, if that
Mm,
makes sense.
I never thought of it that way.
Yes. Um, so I have a friend of mine that when I was in the restaurant industry, she used to be a server. I used to be her boss. And now she's got a beautiful Instagram with over 20,000 followers and a six-figure wedding photography business. Um, And so, yes, she does show the pictures of her clients, which are beautiful. Um, and she's a beautiful lady and has a beautiful husband and now a beautiful daughter. And so, her brand that she shows on her Instagram is here's the life that you'll get after you get married and have me take your pictures.
Hmm.
Now she doesn't really say it that way, and
Yeah.
marketing is so hard because it's genuinely her. I know her. That's why I like talking about her and using her as an example, because I know this is really her life.
Mm.
And she even talks about how much work she puts into what she does. um, so I don't, and she even talks about securities about her body and some things like that, which I know these are a lot more personal than what maybe most of us want to put in our social media. But it's kind of like you said, showing that human connection, telling us who you are, both in your photography and in your content, and alternating that with talking about social media. Um, so if you're talking about yourself and your life, and you can even do posts that don't have anything to do with social media, but it's about you and getting to know your clients and making that connection with your clients. Um, Posts like that, people love that, and it's something that you can put in, even if it doesn't have to have anything to do with actual talking about social media.
Well, that's cool. I didn't think of it the way you said it earlier. I'd never thought about it that way. Talking
Yeah.
about showing them the life that they will get by using your services. That's really
Yes.
cool.
And I always get a little nervous talking about things like that because I don't want it to sound like it's not genuine.
No, I never thought of it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's true for me. My services give people back their time so that they can grow their business and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
now you got me thinking of the types of pictures that I can showcase by giving people back their time. So
Yes.
that you definitely made me think.
Yeah. So what do you get if you get your time back? You get time with your family. You
Yeah.
get to go on walks. You get to go do the hobbies and things that you enjoy doing. And so then you express that. And that also gives you a connection with people that's maybe they're not even all that interested in social media, but they would be interested in you.
Yeah. See, I had my aha moment.
You
Give me an aha moment. Yay.
did it.
I didn't I know I give people back their time, but when it came to pictures, I never thought of how I can showcase that. So that's pretty cool. I liked that.
Yeah.
All right. So how can people get in touch with you?
Well, you can find me at my website, which is Julia May, MAE, photography.com. And I'm also on Instagram at Julia May Hunt.
which I've been following.
Yes, I've seen you in there. Um, and I am also on LinkedIn, and I didn't realize this until yesterday. Someone was wanting to connect on Twitter, and I'm like, oh, I guess I did get my Twitter account set up sometime.
Now I'm in social media, but I
Mm,
can't stand Twitter. I really
yeah,
can't.
I think I've tried it a few times, and it's the same account. So I have to go look and see if it's
Yeah.
even set up to be my professional account or not. You
Oh, how
can
funny.
always find me at Julia Hunt, but then there's a lot of Julia Hunts around the world. Um, and but those are the best places to come find me. Facebook, Julia May. I think that's Julia May Hunt at Julia May Photography LLC.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you. I did learn a lot. This was really exciting. So,
Good.
thank you so much for doing this. And if you guys are watching this back and have any questions, make sure to post them in the comments below. And Julia and I will be monitoring that. And thank you so much for doing this. And I'll see you next month when we talk about how really COVID has affected you and how you had to pivot. The things that you're doing differently because of COVID. And maybe by then, things will change again. Who knows?
Yeah. Right.
So, well, thank you so much. This was fun. And I'm glad we were able to, meet each other through networking online. And now we're
Yes.
becoming, friends, I hope so.
Yeah. We
I
are.
know we see each other at least once a week now online
I
because
know.
we're in part of the same women's networking group. So we see each other at least once or twice a week now.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you. You enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay, you too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.